So what we'd like to be able to do here is not only be able to retrieve all the users, but maybe we want to be able to create a user, right? And to do that, we're going to do it using a post, right? So if you remember a RESTful API, to read users, you use get. To create objects, you use post. So let's see here we can create a brand new user. All right, so we're going to post to this URL, API users, and we're going to embed the user object inside of the request. So in here, we're going to use the actual user, the new user is going to be embedded in the body of the request. And then we can pass that down to users DAO, create user, and we're going to pass the new user. Presumably that's going to be inserted in the database, and what's going to come back is the actual user that was inserted, right? And then we're going to respond with the new user that was just inserted in the database. We haven't implemented this, so we have to implement it. So actual user. So create user, right? Notice that there's no implementation here. So the way we're going to implement it is that we're going to say user model dot create. Right? Create in Mongoose is the equivalent of insert in Mongo DB. Right? So this is the same as an insert. Also notice here that we're using curly brackets here, right? Whereas here we were not using curly bracket. And when we use curly brackets, because we intend to have multiple lines of code, although here we only have one line of code. If we do have the curly bracket, that means that we're going to have one or more lines of code, and there is no implicit return. Right? You have to explicitly return from the function. If indeed instead you don't have multiple lines, and you know that you're only going to have a single line, then the curly brackets are optional, and the single line is implicitly returned, meaning whatever this function evaluates to, that's what it's implicitly returned from this function. Here, since we do have the curly brackets and we have more than one, we're expected to have maybe one or two lines of code. Here, there is no implicit return, so we are explicitly returning here. Okay. So anyway, so this create user is being used by using controller for this posts. So let's try posting here, and let's see what we get. I'm going to restart the server, and I'm going to head over to Postman, and we're going to try and post to here. Okay, so here's Postman, and let's try posting there. Let's see, I think it's this one up here. It's this one over here. Let's try and create a user. Looks like we already have a post here. Let's see if we can use this one. Okay, now so this is a generic server. So I'm going to create a new request. I'm going to say create local user. Okay, there it is. I'm going to move it up here. And we're going to implement it as a post. And the URL is going to be, let's see, going to be to this URL. There we go. And we're going to post a user whose content is going to be embedded in the body. We're going to have a username. So let's see, we have Alice, we have Bob. How about we create Charlie? And password, these are terrible passwords. And let's create a first name, Charlie, last, Brown. There we go. Okay, so let's try hitting the server. And the server responds with nothing. That's unfortunate. Let's see. Post. Let's see if we refresh. No, it looks like we were not able to create it. Let's debug this. Let's see. We have a localhost post API users. And do we have a post API users? We do. Let's see if we are actually receiving a request here. Let's restart the server in debug mode. Let's try that post again. Let's send it. Okay, it looks like we are making it here. And let's go next. Let's see what we have for the user. New user, we have, well, okay, it looks like the information made it here. New user is going to be passed to new user. Let's go in there, step in. So here we are. Oh, it looks like we never passed user to the as a parameter. All right, so let's pass in user as a parameter of create, and hopefully that will be created. Let's restart the server. Let's try it again. Let's remove this breakpoint here. Let's send. Okay, it looks like this time it did work. Right, it is coming back from the server with a unique identifier and some administrative statistical variables in the object. We can also try it out with this API here. We can retrieve all the users, and indeed we see that Charlie has been added. We can also go into a database, right, and retrieve all the users and see that indeed Charlie has been added to the Mongo database.